that Jadon Sancho, I can't even believe I'm really saying it, Jadon Sancho is back. Not only is he back, he's back in training. He's at Manchester United. Manchester United just sort of dropped the statement around sort of 6 o'clock yesterday, I think it was, KG. Just kind of like pre-season trainings continuing. Jadon Sancho's back. Eric Ten Hag's looking over everyone. I went, so did you just say Jadon Sancho's back? You were right on this. I remember having a discussion on this very show. What was it? Maybe it wasn't even that long. A couple of weeks ago, maybe.
A couple of weeks ago. I think it could have been maybe the last Trinity or the Trinity before.
Yeah, I think it was close. And you brought up the thing of just sort of saying like, what if he comes back? And Flex, who is a disgrace, because when we were chatting last night about it, he was like, I did say this. I was like, piss off, Flex. You didn't say this. You were definitely... Yeah. And our point of view, well, my prediction for it anyway was that basically it would come to a point of, right, you're going to come back, and then Manchester United would just sort of say, oh, just, keep yourself fit. If a deal happens, something like that. And you were like, no, look, what if they have the meeting and they just move on? And because so much time had passed, and because the conflict seemed so far apart of like Ten Hag didn't want to back down, Sancho didn't back down, I just didn't see it. And I can't lie, when the news came through yesterday, I was pretty stunned because I just didn't see that happening. I just didn't see it happening. As far as now, what does his future looks like? I don't know what to think. I think everything's on the table, isn't it, really, about what could happen next?
Oh, listen, I think with most Man United fans, it's very difficult to see where everyone else lays, but I'll just say where I am. Conflicted with Jadon Sancho, and it's conflicting on many different reasons. Now, there's a piece that will connect you, like it's a guy from the ends, it's a guy Croydon, you know what I mean? Like my part of London, really, and he's living the dreams.
Affinity, you know what I mean?
It's like probably how like the Manc fans feel about Rashford, and the need to give him chance after chance after chance. You know what I mean? Manc born and bred, but you're saying, look, this is someone where there's just a little bit of a connection, but at the same time, in that connection, you feel, well, you've been given this opportunity and you haven't made the most of it. Like a lot of people it takes a lot to get to a club from London to Manchester anyway. Like your parents had to do a lot of graft to make sure you get into games on time, doing all this. There's so much that goes into it. And it felt like Sancho's been not given because he's had to work, but he's now in position and he's ruining it. And that again, when I saw the pin tweet and he held on to it, I was like, Jadon, man. That was all I was in this thing of, Jadon, this is not the way to do it. This is not the way to go, especially when Anthony was now injured. Jadon had an option to get back into the mix of things, and he didn't. He couldn't humble himself and say, I want to be a part of this club. Now, even if he says, well, I didn't want the label, you know how Benny McCarthy, this is according to Benny McCarthy, or a statement that Benny McCarthy could have made. He didn't want to look across, he didn't want to be seen as a poor trainer or bad attitude, this, that, and the other. But guess what? Now, those that people are going to make their own conclusions. The bottom line is ego took over. I think ego took over in both sides, but guess what? Someone runs the ship and the other person is he's just a crewmate. The main guy, the captain that runs the ship, you can't tell him what's going on. It's simple as that. You can have an opinion, but if you can't go to war with the captain, throw him overboard. And what he's done is he's gone to Dortmund, and this is where it gets a bit techie. He goes to Dortmund. Dortmund are giving it large, saying, we always knew. He's kissing the badge. They do this whole song and dance. Well, when it's come down to, well, show me the money, Dortmund don't want to show us the money. They're signing other players. So now we have a situation of a player that should be worth plus 60, 70 million. He was one of the brightest the brightest wingers in world football at one time. There was a time when he could look Saka in the eye and say, mate, you're not on my level. Like, how many goals did you score? We all seen the video. Now, it's like, you won't even be, that has aged horribly as a video, because you're nowhere near the England setup. Saka's about to play for England in the final, and you don't even have a club. Man United are saying, well, I don't like the potential fees that we're getting. He has to be a part of it. And I honestly feel people are saying that he hasn't apologized to Ten Hag, this, that, and the other. I do believe that they've had a conversation where maybe both sides have said, look, this is where I missed it. Sancho will have to do the bigger part of the apology, but then I think they've taken a manly reaction to it of a lot happened last season. Let's move on. If a club comes in for you and you really want to go, we're open to it.
Do you know, I think you sum it up well with what you're saying there. Your first sort of point by saying conflicted. I think conflicted is probably the best word, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that was written about Jadon Sancho, whilst all of that was going on last year, I did think some of it was, we don't know whether how accurate a lot of it is. You know, the stuff about timekeeping or professionalism come from quite credible sources, like credible outlets, like The Athletic were saying it. But then you have to sort of then think about, well, where are they getting that information from? Does it feel a bit like a smear campaign? And at points, I must stress, it kind of did. Magnified things are at Manchester United and just how combustible I think things were last season too. But the reason I say I'm conflicted is because if the manager and the club have moved on, then as a fan, I kind of go, well, then I guess I move on too. You know, because I support the club, because I back the club, and I only want to see Manchester United doing well and succeeding. And if all parties here, like Ten Hag's cool, if we still got a good offer and you want to go, we'll facilitate that. But that's the reality. Is, to your point, if people aren't coming in because the money's too high, then I guess you've just got to kind of knuckle down and see out your contract. And as long as you're professional, we'll be professional, and we go to work basically.
Yes.
So I mean, it's kind of wild, isn't it? We're going into a pre-season. You're going to be on the tour. Jadon Sancho most likely is going to be there. And it'll be really interesting to see, like,
it's awkward.
How often? What is it though? Is it awkward?
Yeah, it's a little.
If you've moved on.
No, I think definitely you have to move on. Like, it's difficult because I don't know, man. It's like it took me for a while to that. When Henderson was moving mad, I didn't like that. You know, when Lingard done the whole kit thing, and it's even do you know how long it took me to forgive Ronaldo? Like, forever. It probably took this Euros to be like, it's Ronaldo. You can never not love Ronaldo. But then,
that's what I mean. But that wasn't resolved. But that wasn't resolved. This has been resolved now, isn't it? That's why I'm saying, is it awkward anymore? It's awkward if it hasn't been resolved. But all parties here have gone, right, we'll draw a line under it. We're moving on. We'll do the work. We'll be professional. Boom. It takes the awkwardness out of it. It's awkward if, you know, there's a big, you know, elephant in the room. Well, this isn't resolved. Nothing's happened here, but it has been resolved.
No, listen, you make a fair point. I just think of, obviously I do this selfishly. When I think of on a club level, it's fine. Whatever they decide, it's fine. They're moving on, it's fine. But I think when I think just on a personal, how I feel about things, I'm like, well, I'll cheer for you. I'll do all of that stuff. But it's like, I still remember that, you know, like there's things that just leave a little bit of taste in your mouth. I just want to be able to say, hey, you know what? Water under the bridge, let's move forward. But then I'm like, I just didn't like the way you operate with the club in the when it all went bad. I didn't like the fallout. I didn't like the pinned tweet. I didn't like just how he was moving. But again, you know what? It's moved on. Like end of the day, we have to move forward. But as I said, a little part of us never knew was gonna be here.